Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Ace of Pentacles. I have this little practice today that I'd like to share, and I've been wondering how to share this. This is some of the work that I do. It's a big portion of the work that I do with my clients, but I think I finally found a way to do it. I'm sharing it today because earlier this week, I actually found myself doing this practice because something really cool had manifested in my life. And something came up and a dream kind of came true, and I found myself practicing this. And so I thought I'd share it because it's one of the more popular ones with my clients. All right, so I'd like to start by asking you a question to consider. So many of us design our lives, right? And we do it looking forward, looking ahead of us. We're taught like plan and, come up with the idea and come up with a roadmap and the business plan and come up with the resume, like plan for the job you're going to go after. So we create all these plans and we plan for the next week and the next month and the next year. So I'd like you to consider the question, what if there's a version of you that builds your life looking back? Okay. And this is, just so you know, this is an imaginative practice. This is tapping into your imagination. It's really playing inside your imagination. So if that's not your cup of tea, stick around for a little while, see how you feel. And if you really, really don't like it, then this is probably not the episode for you. All right. So like I said, this is one of my favorite exercises to do with my clients, and they always tell me it changes how they operate. So the question that we're going to sit with is, what if there's a version of you that builds your life looking back? All right. And I wouldn't do this while you're like driving or moving or maybe when you're walking, but definitely, don't do this while you're driving. And I want you to imagine this with me now that you're seated in a calm place without any distractions. Imagine this with me. Imagine yourself in your body right now and notice how you feel, where you are, how your body feels, notice your breath, orient yourself to this moment. And now I want you to recall this day from the perspective of you 3 years ago. So imagine what was happening on this day or around this time 3 years ago. And now I'm going to make this real for you, for us. I want you to imagine a dream, something you've been wanting to have happen in your life. And imagine it's already happened. This could be a new job. It could be $1 million. It could be the love of your life. It could be anything you want. Okay. Here's the key to this actually being useful, though. This is not like pie in the sky dreaming. We're not doing this for fun. Okay. We're designing our lives looking back. That's what we're doing. So I want you to imagine an outcome that feels real for you right now, okay? So if you've made a move recently and you've been hopeful about this move is going to result in this thing, and that thing feels very like it's going to happen for you, you feel confident in it. If you're imagining an outcome that doesn't feel right to where you're like laughing or giggling, this isn't that exercise. So we're playing with our imaginations, but this isn't supposed to be like, oh, haha, what if this happened? What if I won the lottery or whatever, right? Think about something that's a little bit more realistic. So maybe you've applied to a job recently and maybe you went through the interview process and now you're waiting for the call, right? So in that kind of a scenario, imagine the next step. Imagine someone calling you, the hiring manager, saying, hey, we'd like to hire you and let's go. So you got the job. Okay. Now I want you, as you keep this dream coming true in your mind, you in this body, this version of you, it's March 2026. So let's say this version of you has accomplished that dream. You've gotten the call, you got the job, you're ready to go. Now, from that perspective, I want you to think back to the March 2023 version of you. And in your mind's eye, observe the March 2023 version that made a decision that had something to do with your dream coming true today, a dream that has already come true, right? So now you're in the mindset of 2026 you, and you're simply observing the life of 2023 you. Here's the tricky part about this. One, don't inhabit that version of you. Don't inhabit her body. Just observe her, almost like from this third person perspective. And imagine you're just watching her go through life. Simply observe. And when you notice this decision that she's made in 2023, this is the other tricky part. You're not changing a decision. So this is life design from a future version of you, right? So this version, the 2026 version in this case, is a future version of you. Something great has happened for you. And an older version of you, you're just observing her from 2023, and you're not changing any decisions she makes. You're simply observing a decision that could have led to this moment of success right now that you're experiencing. Because the operating assumption here is that that version of you made that decision in order to get you to the version of you today that has that success. So, the version of you in 2026 that has already planned your life, that has achieved that success, that version of you planned your whole life from 2023 up until now in order to reach that moment. So if that reframe helps a little bit. So now we're operating from a future version of us, right? But we're observing this past version of us. And I want you to reflect on some of these questions. Think about what the path is that March 2026 version of you, this version of you, sees the 2023 version of you taking that leads to this moment, the moment of success. So if you're in a really bad moment, try not to imagine like that moment. Try to imagine the good thing that comes out of this. You've gotten that clarity, you've accomplished the goal, you're feeling happy. What path did that version take to get here, including maybe a few moments ago where you weren't feeling that great? Now I want you to go back to your dream coming true and imagine that you in 2026 are responsible for shaping the last 3 years of your life, designing the last 3 years of your life in order to get you to that moment. Now, this dream of yours that's true, or you've accomplished this goal, what does that 2023 version of you need to do, learn, be, have, or think in order for this dream to come true? So now what I'm asking you to do is imagine this version of you going back to that 2023 version of you and kind of mapping out, okay, who is that person? And is that person ready for this really cool, big new opportunity that you have, that you just got in 2026? And if that person is not ready, how would you shape their life? How would you make them ready? So if you just got a call and it was the job you interviewed for, right? And you got it in 2026, what did the 2023 version of you need to do, need to know, need to have, need to learn in order to put you on the path to this moment of success? Did she need to quit that job? Did she need to go back to school? What did she do? Did she need to learn a specific skill set? Did she need to meet certain people or have certain experiences? And if you notice, if the goal or dream that you chose is one that's about to manifest for you, that is very real for you, that feels real for you right now, again, not pie in the sky, one day it'll be, it's something that feels real for you right now. If you notice, you'll begin to see the exact series of events that led you to the moment of having achieved your dream. All right, a few things that this practice does. It helps you expand your perspective. So instead of always looking forward at your life, you can think about a future perspective, which helps guide your decision making. It also helps you see that life isn't just a series of meaningless coincidences. There is an intelligent design to your life. Because if you chose 2 moments in time, a moment more recently and a moment before that, and mapped out the path between those 2 moments, you'll see what I'm talking about. And it's okay if you don't believe that, the thing that I said about there being an intelligent design to our lives. It's okay if you don't believe that. But if not believing that is causing you stress, wouldn't it be nicer if you could just for a few moments imagine that you believed it? So practices like these can be really powerful tools because they can be healing and they can be restorative. They can empower us. They can help us bring our own power and agency back into our bodies. They can help us let go of having to control everything or be constantly worried or stressed out about life. And if you think about it, we actually do this all the time. We imagine futures that don't yet exist. And so I just wonder if we can imagine a future that doesn't exist yet and then create it, because we do that all the time. We come up with a whole plan. When you come up with a life plan, your next 5 years, your goals, you're creating a future that doesn't exist. And then we just have to take those steps to create that future. So if it can work that way, can we use that same power of imagination in the other direction to understand why we're having the experience of life in this moment that we are having? And actually, we do this too, right? When we're in a difficult situation, we look back and we think about, oh man, all the decisions we made that landed us in that awful situation. So I'm simply asking you to expand that perspective a little bit. Go a little bit more into the future and imagine that every decision you actually made was exactly the right decision for your dream coming true. Because when we do all that other stuff, we're like, oh man, I shouldn't have made that decision, shouldn't have made that decision. We get angry and we get down on ourselves and we start to tell ourselves stories of how we're incapable and incompetent. So what if we combine these powers, the power to imagine what's next and the power to review what has already happened, to actually find well-being? What would that then look like? Well, that would look like you imagining a good outcome for yourself and then telling yourself in your imagination the story of how you got to that outcome, the story of the decisions that you made to get to that good outcome. And that's what an exercise like this does. It allows you to practice the power of imagination to create a future, and then the power of review in your imagination, where you go back and look at all the decisions you made that led you to that same exact future. That's a positive future. So now every decision you made is looked at from a new angle. So I usually don't talk about specific practices on this podcast that I use or other people in the field that I know of use, because they are, as you can tell, a little bit complex. And depending on where the client is on their journey, what they need at that time, you might take this in a different direction. And yeah, practices like these, they combine energetic and spiritual concepts with design thinking and road mapping and planning. And they're both very helpful, right? But this is kind of a hybrid. It's a combination of those two. And I sometimes need to help clients do this in a state of hypnosis because they're unable to access that imaginative space within them, that creative space, just because we're not used to it. So I hope this helps you maybe get a sense of the intuitive and energetic nature of the work that I do. I offer intuitive development coaching packages where we do a lot of this type of work, and we'll often start with practicing more forward-looking life design, and then I would introduce a practice like this. So my clients always tell me that it's super helpful. I hope it helps you. I do recommend working with a trained professional and stuff like this, someone who's maybe an intuitive coach or a hypnotherapist, because they're used to guiding people through these types of activities. There's a particular style of guidance and language that we use. People do get stuck sometimes because they can't really hop from one moment to the next in their minds visually without actually inhabiting the state of mind that version of themselves held. So we definitely don't want you to do that, because you can get stuck in this kind of negative thinking pattern of like, here's all the problems that came up at that point in my life. So my point is, the work is complex. It takes practice. It takes radical honesty about where you are in your journey right now and what you actually believe is possible for you. And sometimes, when clients really can't imagine a good outcome, then other work needs to be done. Maybe we need to do a little bit of work drawing from narrative therapy, or just the way that we tell the story of our lives, right? And so there's other activities for stuff like that. So my point is, work with a coach or a guide on stuff like this. It is helpful to work with someone until you kind of learn to use these muscles yourself. Many of us are not in the habit of playing in our imaginations, and we're not in the habit of perspective taking or being introspective. So I just recommend getting support with that. I do a lot of writing on Substack that has prompts that can help you start to access that space. I have an episode on hypnosis in this podcast. I have 2 episodes on hypnotherapy. And so take a look at resources, look at guides, work with someone. It's usually really helpful. All right. So that's all for me. I hope this exercise is helpful. Have a good rest of your day. Thank you.